how have your activities, like day-to-day activities, evolved over time?
Um, well, when I started, the hardest place to be, I'll say it this way, the hardest place to be is having no customers because you need to have intense motivation to go in, keep going every day. Everyone needs to be accountable to someone. Now, of course, if you get funding, oh, you're majorly, accountable to those people who've given you money. I was using my own money to kind of start up the company or living on my own funds while the business was growing. But you need to have a super high motivation when you don't have customers. So that's the really hard part. So getting customers ASAP, because now you have someone to be accountable to. Now you have a reason to, well, more of a reason to get up every morning and say, all right, I got to do this thing because these customers are looking for it. So
Right. So when you actually started this, you basically quit your job cold turkey and just said, okay, I'm going to live off my funds for a little while and start a business, and it'll be, a month before I have an MVP, and I'll live off that. And that's not what happened. Is basically what is usually how it goes, right? Is that
right,
correct?
right, right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, so there was a scenario where I was actually talking with my current employer because, some of the idea I had for the product was addressing a need that existed there. And so I kind of built something that, because I believe that other institutions would have the same issue. But then there were questions from HR and saying, oh, well, how much of this is our intellectual property? And, it got super muddy. And I'm just like, I mean, my boss was like, no, no, no. He was kind of an advocate for me, but the HR and the bureaucracy just kind of, I was like, all right, I'm just going to quit. And then I had built up a nest egg. So I said, I'm just going to quit and I'm just going to start. I'm going to work on this and build it and see where it goes from there. The problem is that I did start the business about 6 months before I quit, but it was super hard to work 10 hours a day or 11 hours with a commute or whatever it was, come home and then, all right, now I'm going to build the solution. That was really hard and not much was happening. So I said, all right, I'm just going to yank the parachute or whatever analogy you want to use, jump out of the airplane, whatever, and quit and keep building it. And then, yeah, release it. Would I do that today again? I don't know. But because, yeah, the hardest thing is like getting those first customers. So
And so, you of course chose to work in a product where you already had a lot of domain knowledge. Can you speak a little bit to that and what, basically the process of actually coming up with, at what point when you have an idea do you decide, oh, maybe there's something where I need a product for this and that I can sell, and how do you make that determination that, hey, I'm going to start a product, start a company and start a product? Because I think everyone has ideas, right? So curious
well,
what that is. Mhm.
I won't say that I chose the best route. I mean, what I'll say in hindsight is that um, it's not just the product you need to have. What you need to have is one, a good product idea, and two, what I'll call a marketing engine to reach out to the people who are interested in it. So that has been my biggest downfall with my product. That is less so with my consulting, in that, so I have the product, works great, has customers, but I'm still needing to improve that marketing engine um, to bring in customers on a regular basis.
Looks like comments as you said you started in 2009, so you made it through the recession. How hard was it to get customers? So I guess if it's 2009, that would have been right when things were starting to pick back up again, or was it sort of still in the middle of
I would
that?
say through 2010, 2011. But I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of companies usually get started around recessions because people get fired, or not fired, but
right.
people get let go. Um,
Mm.
so I really didn't notice anything about the recession in terms of the business because it was just hard enough trying to get customers in general. And and it took a long time to be able to get some initial customers. So yeah, longer than I would have wanted, but yeah.
Well, that's the biggest problem I always had with things is because I'm so introverted, selling myself, if you're doing this solo entrepreneur thing, going out and selling yourself is really difficult. That's a big step to overcome. That's even more difficult for me than getting in front of a camera and doing live streaming, right? But selling myself and talking up my product, it just always felt weird to me, and so that was always my biggest problem when I started businesses. Is it just I just was not good at selling myself.
I think for me, one of the one of the things that I saw, I also started a company, of course. So in that during that process, the thing that I found really bizarre was at first, of course, before every customer pitch or anything, I was pretty nervous. But then at some point, I think when are you familiar with BYD Auto? They're, I think, the biggest electric vehicle company in
Yes.
China.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the founders of BYD Auto now owns a VC firm and investment firm, and he actually came to visit us. So this was, I was talking to a multi-billionaire who, and before this, I was just like, I'm not nervous anymore. And so I guess at some point it just kind of became second nature to, after doing this in front of hundreds of different people, right? And all sorts of different backgrounds and different groups. Um, and so I think that initial hump is the hardest part to get through in terms of that customer acquisition. It just with in terms of the comfort at least,
Mm-hmm.
or at least that was for me. So
So I never had it's interesting. I don't have an issue doing sales or having sales calls, but the issue is the at least for my product, it's the a not well-tuned marketing engine that brings in leads on a consistent basis. So that I know is the main issue with that. Like I have a marketing engine for my consulting, which is basically just it could be vastly improved, but like I have a weekly show that goes out about how to scale Postgres that basically just looks at posts and I talk about them. So that leads people to find me that way.
mm, I see.
And then
Um,
doing the sales is actually rather easy. They say, "Hey, we've seen you've done 452 episodes about how to scale Postgres. Can you help us?" I'm like, "Sure."
right, I see. Yeah. Yeah, I think also kind of the customer size is something which ends up impacting that a lot, right? Because I think in my case, um, it takes it can take a couple of years to acquire a customer, but usually those customers end up being multi-million dollar, projects, either, in terms of total revenue with it, some sort of split between the sales and the initial R&D part. So we usually have an RE contract, and then we go into the production stage, and so that NRE as a non-recurring engineering. But so I think that also can make a pretty big difference in terms of that. It sounds like at least with your consulting, you have a very easy or relatively simple acquisition or customer acquisition process, right?
Right, right. Well, um, I don't know, customer acquisition. I guess I'll say once they know about me, once they've found the content and they know they need help, converting them to a customer, going from a lead to a customer, super easy. But but getting the leads is still a hang up, at least for the consulting. Whereas I have both problems with the product. If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.